Hollywood's golden age wasn't just about dazzling premieres and unforgettable blockbusters. It concealed a ruthless underbelly of scandal, manipulation, and corruption that could easily outshine any film noir. Ever wondered what disturbing secrets icons like Charlie Chaplin and Joan Crawford truly kept hidden? This countdown delves deep into the darkest corners of classic cinema, where immense fame often shielded the guilty and power ruthlessly suppressed the truth. Prepare to see some legends in a completely different light. Rosco "Fatty" Arbuckle. He was once the unchallenged king of silent film comedy, a colossal star whose slapstick genius filled theaters nationwide with thunderous laughter. At his zenith, Rosco "Fatty" Arbuckle was not merely a household name. He stood among the highest-paid entertainers on the planet. Studios fiercely vied for his presence, and fans adored him. Hollywood seemed to be endlessly captivated. Yet in 1921, the glittering facade crumbled, revealing a scandal that would send seismic shockwaves throughout the entire industry. Arbuckle's night of lavish excess at a San Francisco hotel party spiraled catastrophically when young actress Virginia Rapp became critically ill and tragically died days later. The ensuing media frenzy was immediate and explosive. Whispers of scandal rapidly escalated into tabloid hysteria, transforming Arbuckle from a beloved comedian into a stark cautionary tale. He endured not one, but 3 agonizing trials for manslaughter. Although a jury ultimately cleared his name, Hollywood had already decisively slammed its doors shut. His films vanished from screens, the public grew cold, and his name, once a guaranteed box office success, instantly became toxic. The Arbuckle case transcended mere personal downfall. It marked Hollywood's first brutal public reckoning. It exposed the deep cracks within the industry's meticulously polished image, revealing a merciless system lurking behind the laughter and lights, one quick to annihilate even its brightest stars. Arbuckle's tragic legacy endures as a haunting reminder. In the cutthroat world of Hollywood, the higher you ascend, the more devastating your fall. Charlie Chaplin. Hailed as one of the most brilliant minds in cinematic history, Charlie Chaplin, with his indelible tramp character, cane in hand, mustache twitching, revolutionized film and brought laughter to millions. But beneath the laughter lay a profoundly more intricate narrative, one fraught with controversy and personal behavior that continues to provoke intense debate even today. While audiences adored his on-screen persona, Chaplin's private life painted a starkly different picture. He exhibited a concerning pattern of pursuing extremely young women, notably marrying one bride who was only 16 while he was nearing 35. These highly imbalanced relationships ignited public outrage and compelled serious questions about the man behind the genius. The scandals didn't stop there. Chaplin found himself entangled in a highly publicized paternity lawsuit, facing accusations of fathering a child out of wedlock. Despite the murky scientific understanding of the era, the courtroom fallout exacted a severe toll, both financially and on his reputation. Adding to his troubles, the U.S. government cast a wary eye on Chaplin. As Cold War tensions intensified, he came under relentless scrutiny. J. Edgar Hoover's FBI maintained an extensive file on him, fueled by suspicions concerning his political leanings and global influence. Hollywood's beloved golden boy was now perceived as a potential threat. Confronted by mounting backlash and suspicion, Chaplin eventually departed the U.S., making Switzerland his new permanent residence. To this day, his legacy walks a precarious tightrope. On one side, unmatched artistic brilliance. On the other, profoundly troubling personal choices. Where are you watching from? Drop your country in the comments. And don't go anywhere. The stars coming up are even more shocking, with scandals you've never heard of. Trust us, the wildest stories are still ahead. Errol Flynn. Errol Flynn epitomized the silver screen hero. In iconic roles like Captain Blood and The Adventures of Robin Hood, he effortlessly vaulted across grand banquet halls, brandished his sword with unmatched flair, and captivated audiences with a single roguish grin. But everything changed abruptly in 1942, when two teenage girls brought forward severe misconduct accusations against him. The ensuing trial became explosive front-page news, shaking Hollywood to its very core and gravely jeopardizing Flynn's gallant public image. While he was ultimately found not guilty, the sensational spectacle left an indelible scar that no amount of spotlight could conceal. Rumors continued to trail him like a billowing cloak. Tales of reckless indulgence, tumultuous friendships, and legendary nights out. The very phrase, "in like Flynn," even permeated pop culture. To some, a tribute to irresistible charm. To others, a knowing wink at how stardom could enable one to sidestep disaster. Flynn's legacy remains a profound study in contrast. The fearless swashbuckler who defined an entire era, and the volatile celebrity whose notorious off-screen escapades starkly revealed the deep shadows lurking behind Hollywood's gleaming golden glow. Joan Crawford. With unforgettable roles in classics like Grand Hotel, 1932, and Mildred Pierce, 1945, Joan Crawford became a symbol of ambition, elegance, and relentless drive. To the public, she was the picture of triumph. But that carefully crafted image began to unravel with the release of Mommy Dearest, the infamous memoir written by her adopted daughter, Christina Crawford. The book shattered the illusion of Hollywood perfection, revealing a woman who, behind closed doors, ruled with cold authority and an unpredictable temper. The revelations shocked fans and painted a jarring contrast to the polished persona she projected for decades. Whispers from the industry added more fuel. Allegations swirled that, in her early days, Crawford may have been involved in a photo scandal. Images that studios supposedly went to great lengths to hide. True or not, the rumors became part of her legend and a reminder of the secret machinery that once protected Hollywood royalty. On film sets, Joan was no less intimidating. Known for her sharp presence and unwavering standards, she demanded perfection, and those who fell short were often shown the door. Tensions with co-stars were common. Directors handled her with caution. She didn't just act out strength on screen, she lived it. And at times that strength crossed the line into something far more merciless. Though she was never formally accused of wrongdoing, many believe Joan Crawford's legacy is a cautionary tale. Not about crime, but about unchecked influence. Her power at home and within the studio system built a legend, and possibly buried the truth. Wallace Berry. With major hits like The Champ and Grand Hotel, he became a ubiquitous fixture of early Hollywood. However, away from the cameras, Berry's reputation was anything but charming. In 1937, the entertainment world was rocked by the sudden and mysterious death of comedian Ted Healy, best known for creating The Three Stooges. The official cause of death was attributed to a combination of alcohol and other factors. But behind closed doors, whispers told a far darker tale. Multiple reports alleged that Healy had been involved in a violent altercation outside a nightclub, with Wallace Berry's name squarely at the center of the controversy. Some accounts claim that Berry and two other men severely beat Healy during a heated confrontation. No charges were ever filed, and no official blame was assigned, but the persistent rumors never died. Behind the scenes, murmurs of a massive studio cover-up abounded. MGM, desperate to shield one of its biggest stars, was widely rumored to have paid off witnesses and meticulously buried the truth. Nothing was ever definitively proven, but in the court of public opinion, the damage was permanent. Even without the Healy scandal, Berry was no stranger to criticism. Many who worked alongside him described him as volatile, incredibly difficult, and openly cruel. He routinely yelled at directors, belittled co-stars, and mercilessly used his fame to bulldoze anyone who stood in his way. Whether or not he played a direct role in Ted Healy's tragic end, Wallace Berry serves as a chilling reminder of how powerful stars, and even more powerful studios, could twist the spotlight to conceal the darkest corners of fame. Tom Neal. His first major scandal exploded when he engaged in a vicious brawl with actor Franchot Tone, both men fiercely vying for the affections of actress Barbara Payton. The beating inflicted was so severe that Tony ended up hospitalized with serious injuries. The story dominated front pages and Hollywood recoiled. Neil's reputation suffered a severe blow, but this was only the beginning. Years later, in 1965, tragedy struck again. His wife was discovered dead from a gunshot wound. Neil adamantly insisted it was an accident, but the court viewed it differently. He was ultimately convicted of manslaughter and sentenced to prison. The parallels between his life and his roles were chilling. Neil had carved out a career portraying troubled men with violent tempers, and now life had horrifyingly imitated art. Fans and critics alike couldn't help but ponder. Had the roles truly consumed the man? When he was finally released, the industry had long since moved on without him. There were no comebacks, no redemption arcs. Tom Neil faded into utter obscurity, his name merely a whisper in Hollywood's darker footnotes, remembered not for the roles he played, but for the profound chaos he lived. George Raft. Born and raised in New York's notorious Hell's Kitchen, Raft didn't need to study the criminal underworld. He grew up immersed in it. From an early age, he associated with dangerous crowds and forged close ties with real-life mobsters. His name was frequently whispered alongside infamous figures like Bugsy Siegel, and industry insiders strongly suspected he played a far more significant behind-the-scenes role than anyone dared to admit. The rumors were relentless. Some claimed Raft acted as a discreet go-between for the mob and nightclub owners. Others believed he quietly resolved disputes for his criminal associates, making problems disappear before law enforcement ever became involved. Studios panicked. The very idea that one of their biggest stars might be too deeply connected to the underworld was an absolute public relations nightmare. Though he never faced major legal charges, the cloud of suspicion surrounding him never dissipated. Directors and co-stars described him as polite, even generous, but always surrounded by individuals who raised significant eyebrows. His rampant gambling habits certainly didn't help. Deeply in debt, he frequently turned to powerful figures for financial lifelines, only further tightening the insidious web of speculation. Audiences loved him in gangster roles precisely because he didn't just act the part, he was the part. And that is what makes George Raft's legacy so enduringly haunting. Frank Sinatra. While primarily celebrated for his music, Sinatra's acting career was far from a mere footnote. His powerful performance in From Here to Eternity, 1953, earned him an Oscar and solidified his place within Hollywood's elite. But as his star ascended, so did the persistent rumors. The FBI maintained extensive files on him, meticulously detailing years of alleged associations with high-level underworld figures. Whispers abounded that Sinatra leveraged his fame to help certain friends secure deals, smooth over conflicts, and gain access to venues where others were explicitly unwelcome. While nothing was ever definitively proven, the constant government surveillance strongly suggested those whispers were not being taken lightly. Then came the politics. Sinatra was renowned for throwing his considerable weight behind select politicians, including President John F. Kennedy. Their close friendship was the subject of intense tabloid obsession, and when it became public that Sinatra also maintained ties with known figures from the criminal world, the spotlight turned scorching. Some argue Sinatra was simply well-connected, a man who moved effortlessly between presidents and power players, showgirls and shadows. Others contend he knew precisely how to bend the rules without explicitly breaking them, utilizing charm as both a shield and a potent weapon. Robert Mitchum. In 1948, the gossip columns exploded. Mitchum was arrested during a late-night party raid where authorities claimed to have discovered illegal substances. At a time when Hollywood stars were expected to maintain an unblemished image, this incident ignited a full-blown scandal. Headlines screamed, fans were stunned, and Mitchum, the tough guy of the silver screen, suddenly found himself sitting in a jail cell. For many, this moment starkly exposed a hidden side of Hollywood scandals. Mitchum's arrest vividly suggested that beneath the red carpets and golden spotlights lay a clandestine world of secrets, where the rules didn't always apply. Studios had long been masters at keeping their stars' personal lives meticulously under wraps, but this time the damage was simply too vast to conceal. Mitchum served time a mere few months behind bars that very nearly obliterated his career. But upon his return, he did so with audacious swagger. Whispers suggested that the studio pulled strings, greased palms, and launched an aggressive charm offensive to meticulously polish his tarnished image. And it worked. He was swiftly back in the spotlight, as if nothing had ever happened. Robert Mitchum may not have been tied to organized crime or political scandal, but his arrest profoundly shattered the illusion of Hollywood perfection. He became the definitive face of a new kind of corruption, where immense fame granted the power to break the rules, pay a minimal price, and still walk away with a lucrative movie deal. What do you think, Robert Mitchum was a misunderstood rebel? Or just another star abusing fame? Comment 1 or 5 below. 1 means he was innocent. 0 means he deserved worse. Lionel Atwill. Audiences knew him as the towering figure behind Son of Frankenstein and Mystery of the Wax Museum, a man who could command a room with a mere whisper and make evil appear elegantly sophisticated. But in 1940, the lights dimmed and the true horror began. Word leaked of an infamous party, the kind studios desperately wanted to keep entirely secret. What precisely transpired that night remained shrouded in mystery, but when Atwill was hauled into court and compelled to testify, he didn't just evade the truth, he outright lied. And in Hollywood, lying under oath was a transgression far more perilous than any monster portrayed on screen. Charged with perjury, Atwill instantly became radioactive. The industry that once adored him turned ice cold. His name vanished from marquees and offers ceased coming. Behind the scenes, insiders whispered that he had irrevocably crossed a line, not merely in the eyes of the law, but in the eyes of studio bosses desperate to maintain their golden world as squeaky clean as possible. He continued acting, securing smaller roles in quieter films, but the glory days were unequivocally over. The scandal indelibly stained him, and in the rigid moral climate of 1940s, Hollywood forgiveness was in tragically short supply. Spade Culley. Spade Culley was once a radiant star with a fiddle in his hand and a perpetual smile on his face, proudly dubbed the King of Western Swing. However, by the early 1960s, Culley's meticulously crafted public persona would shatter in the most horrifying way imaginable. In 1961, he was convicted in court. The devastating charge, the brutal death of his wife, the result of an attack so violent it profoundly stunned the nation. There was no denying it, no ambiguity whatsoever. This was not a scandal fabricated by Hollywood gossip columns. This was a cold, devastating, undeniable fact. Fans were utterly shocked. How could a man known for cheerful melodies and cowboy charm be capable of such monstrous cruelty? Yet, those closer to him painted a chillingly different picture of a jealous, controlling husband whose volatile temper had long simmered ominously beneath the surface. He was sentenced to prison, and although he sought parole years later, fate intervened. Culley tragically died of a heart attack before he could ever walk free again. His story stands apart from the others. There is no mystery, no speculation, just a haunting, unequivocal reminder that even the most joyful stage presence can conceal a deeply dangerous and disturbing reality. Clark Gable. Clark Gable reigned as Hollywood's quintessential leading man, the irresistible star of Gone with the Wind and It Happened One Night. Audiences adored his effortless charm, but those inside the studio system whispered a far less flattering story, one the bosses worked hard to keep buried. In 1945, rumor has it Gable's car was involved in a serious late-night collision that left someone gravely injured. Headlines never appeared, courtrooms stayed silent, and the name Clark Gable was nowhere to be found on any official report. Industry gossip pins the cover-up on MGM executives who, determined to protect their golden ticket, allegedly paid hush money, smoothed over witness accounts, and erased every trace before dawn. It wouldn't have been the studio's first cleanup job. Gable's glamorous life was peppered with fiery romances and late-night escapades, yet negative press seemed to vanish as quickly as it surfaced. The accident story has never been proven, but it lingers in Hollywood lore, a reminder of an era when the right connections could rewrite reality. Guilty or simply shielded by privilege, Gable wasn't just treated like royalty on screen. In the real world, he played by a different set of rules altogether. Adul Monju. Adul Monju looked every inch the distinguished gentleman, always impeccably dressed, invariably with a sharp mustache and even sharper wit. With standout roles in The Front Page, 1931, and A Star is Born, 1937, he became the very embodiment of sophistication in classic cinema. In the 1940s and 50s, the chilling Red Scare gripped America, unleashing a wave of fear and suspicion. Accusations flew wildly, careers were abruptly shattered, and pervasive fear dictated who could work and who was unequivocally blacklisted. At the heart of this destructive firestorm stood the House Un-American Activities Committee, HUAC, and Monju didn't merely support it. He became one of its most outspoken celebrity allies. As a friendly witness, Monju did not hesitate to name names: colleagues, writers, directors. He accused them of being communist sympathizers, often without any solid proof. And in Hollywood, a mere accusation was all it took. Those who landed on the infamous blacklist were effectively erased. No work, no future, no chance to defend themselves. To some, Monju was simply defending core American values. To others, he was deeply complicit in political corruption, using his immense fame not for art or truth, but for unwavering loyalty to a specific agenda, and perhaps to protect himself. His public speeches and fervent support for HUAC added considerable fuel to a destructive fire that tragically burned through Hollywood's creative core. Years later, the scars of that era remain. While Monju's performances continue to charm on screen, his actions off-camera narrate a far more divisive story, of power wielded not to entertain, but to mercilessly silence. Mabel Normand. In 1922, Hollywood was rocked by the sudden and deeply suspicious death of director William Desmond Taylor. Normand was not just a colleague, she was a close friend, perhaps even more. She was also chillingly one of the very last people to see him alive. Although she was never formally accused, the pervasive suspicion clung to her like a shroud of smoke. Rumors swirled about intense arguments, dark secrets, and possible ties to the darker side of fame, including whispered mentions of addiction and severe financial tension. Then came another alarming headline. This time, Normand was present at a party when her wealthy lover shockingly shot another man. Once again, she wasn't charged. Once again, the scandal dominated front-page news. Whether by sheer coincidence or a cruel curse, violence seemed to consistently follow her name, and the studios were deeply displeased by this disturbing pattern. Public opinion rapidly shifted. The once playful star now carried a reputation irrevocably clouded by chaos. Her illustrious career stumbled, and offers ceased coming. Mabel Normand tragically died young, her final curtain falling long before the full truth about her entanglements was ever truly revealed. And while no jury ever found her guilty of wrongdoing, the relentless gossip painted her as an undeniable magnet for trouble. Mary Miles Minter. In 1922, the sudden and suspicious death of director William Desmond Taylor sent seismic shockwaves through the entire film world. Minter, barely a teenager at the time, had reportedly developed deep and intense feelings for Taylor, a man twice her age. When police uncovered a stack of heartfelt, deeply personal letters from Minter to the deceased director, speculation exploded. Then the spotlight turned fiercely onto her mother, Charlotte Shelby, a fiercely controlling figure in Minter's life. Rumors erupted that Shelby profoundly disapproved of the relationship, perhaps to the point of a dangerous obsession. Some whispered she would stop at absolutely nothing to protect her daughter's image, her career, or her chilling secrets. While Mary Miles Minter may not have directly broken laws, the suffocating cloud of scandal left her with a reputation she could never entirely outrun. She soon vanished from Hollywood, leaving behind a haunting legacy built not just on film, but on one of the industry's most chilling what-ifs. To this day, the case remains officially unsolved, and Mary Miles Minter's name remains indelibly etched in the darker corners of Hollywood history. Chico Marx. Chico Marx brought boundless laughter to millions as an integral part of the legendary Marx Brothers, captivating audiences. But off-camera, he grappled with a severe problem, a gambling addiction that spiraled dangerously out of control. While his brothers meticulously built financial security, Chico relentlessly chased bets, leaving behind a devastating trail of mounting debts and persistent whispered rumors. Hollywood insiders gossiped that Chico didn't merely lose money, he reportedly borrowed it from highly dangerous individuals, possibly those with undeniable ties to the criminal underworld. Some accounts claimed he skillfully dodged repayment by performing small favors for shady characters, precariously walking a tightrope between movie stardom and murky, illicit backroom dealings. While nothing was ever definitively proven in court, the mere whispers alone were sufficient to make studios profoundly nervous. His brothers, Groucho and Harpo, reportedly made significant efforts to rein him in, even stepping in to directly manage his finances. But Chico invariably found his way back to the tables. Chico Marx may not have been a criminal in the classic sense, but his dangerous flirtation with mob-linked gambling scenes cast a long, unsettling shadow over his legacy. He serves as a poignant reminder that even the funniest faces of Hollywood weren't always laughing when the camera stopped rolling. Because YouTube will prioritize interactive videos, please comment "OK" if you find this video interesting. Thank you. Edward G. Robinson. Off-camera, Robinson existed in a world diametrically opposed to the characters he so masterfully portrayed. He was a fervent lover of fine art, a discerning collector of rare books, and a man of profound intellect and culture. Yet even such sophistication could not shield him from the political storm that violently swept through Hollywood in the late 1940s. As pervasive political paranoia gripped the nation, the House Un-American Activities Committee set its sights on the film industry. Robinson's name was never officially blacklisted, but in Hollywood it didn't need to be. Whispers were enough. His career stalled significantly, prime roles vanished, and studios meticulously kept their distance. The man once considered untouchable found himself quietly, yet decisively, pushed to the sidelines. Then came the darker, more insidious rumors. Hushed, low-key meetings with shady figures, questionable associations whispered about at exclusive gatherings. No concrete proof, no formal charges. Just enough pervasive doubt to make the entire industry profoundly nervous. The lines between Robinson's iconic, tough guy roles and his real life began to unsettlingly blur. And in an era where public image was absolutely everything, that pervasive blur left a lasting, indelible stain. Robert Taylor. In 1947, as the chilling Red Scare gripped Hollywood with paralyzing fear, Taylor took center stage, not in a film, but before the House Un-American Activities Committee. There, he testified as a friendly witness, naming fellow actors and creatives whom he believed had questionable affiliations. Whether he did so out of genuine belief or under immense pressure from the powerful studios, the devastating result was unequivocally the same. Careers destroyed, lives irrevocably upended, all without trials, without substantial evidence, and without any chance for defense. Remarkably, Taylor's own career remained utterly untouched. While others were silenced, blacklisted, and marginalized, he continued working, continued staring, continued shining brightly under the Hollywood lights. To many, it represented a quiet yet profound betrayal. Not the kind whispered about in sensational scandal columns, but something colder, more calculated. It was the deliberate, calculated use of influence to secure one's own spotlight while others were mercilessly pushed into the deepest shadows. This was not the typical brand of flamboyant corruption, but it was just as damaging and far more lasting in its impact. Though Taylor remained a celebrated actor, the shadow of HUAC never quite left him. His story lingers as a haunting reminder. In old Hollywood, survival sometimes came at the cruel cost of someone else's silence. Gary Cooper. On screen, Gary Cooper was the very embodiment of the all-American hero. Tall, calm, and courageously principled. Films like High Noon and Sergeant York firmly cemented his image as a man of unwavering integrity. But behind the scenes, his reputation took a distinctly more controversial turn during one of Hollywood's darkest chapters: the infamous HUAC hearings. Unlike some of his peers who openly named names, Cooper adopted a more restrained approach, yet his actions still spoke volumes. He admitted to reading scripts that, in his own carefully chosen words, contained un-American ideas. That subtle, seemingly innocuous nod provided considerable fuel to the destructive fire, lending credibility to the insidious witch hunts systematically targeting Hollywood's creative minds. To some, Cooper's cooperation, however mild it appeared, was viewed as a quiet yet significant betrayal. It wasn't merely about what he said, but rather what it deeply symbolized: fear, conformity, and the chilling effect of immense political pressure. While fans once perceived him as the unwavering moral compass of cinema, his stance during this fraught era strongly suggested a more self-protective instinct, a calculated move to remain in favor no matter the ethical cost. Decades later, his legacy still shines brightly, but it carries an undeniable shadow. Cooper's role in this ideological crackdown serves as a powerful reminder that even the most noble faces of Hollywood weren't always standing on the right side of history. Carl Switzer. He was once the very face of mischievous charm, Little Alfalfa, the spiky-haired kid with a crooked tie and a voice that could make anyone smile. But after the camera stopped rolling, Carl Switzer's life tragically unraveled, far from the innocent world of our gang. Fame did not follow him into adulthood. Hollywood had no discernible use for the boy who couldn't seamlessly transition into a leading man. So Switzer slipped through the cracks, desperately chasing money any way he possibly could. Hustling dogs, constantly getting into scraps, and brazenly cutting corners in shady backroom deals that no one ever truly wanted to discuss. Whispers persistently followed him. Stories of scams, unpaid debts, and a man who always seemed to owe money to the wrong kind of people. He wasn't overtly dangerous, but he was undeniably desperate. And desperation in Hollywood has a grim way of writing its own tragic, often violent ending. That devastating ending came one fateful night in 1959, when a dispute over a small debt explosively escalated into a fatal gunshot. The official reports surrounding the incident were murky. Some claimed he lunged aggressively. Others vehemently asserted it was self-defense. But what remains undeniably certain is this: the boy who once made America laugh died in a bitter pool of resentment, long after the laughter had definitively stopped. Switzer's fall from grace wasn't cinematic. It was quiet, profoundly sad, and deeply soaked in the kind of corruption that insidiously creeps in slowly. His story isn't just about a star fading, it's about what horrifyingly happens when fame burns out and grim survival takes its desolate place. Shia Labou. Shia Labou wasn't your typical child star. He didn't need a polished image or leading man looks to win over audiences. As Louis Stevens on Disney Channel's Even Stevens, his wild energy, expressive face, and offbeat charm made him instantly unforgettable. He was the kind of kid who felt real, relatable, awkward, and completely magnetic. After Disney, Labou made the rare leap to blockbuster fame, headlining hits like Transformers and Disturbia. For a while, it seemed like he was Hollywood's next big thing. But fame has a price, and Shia's path soon veered off course. What followed was a whirlwind of arrests, public meltdowns, and headlines that often overshadowed his talent. His appearance evolved just as dramatically. Gone was the clean-cut Disney teen, replaced by a scruffy, tattooed man with a volatile edge. One day, he'd be bearded and disheveled, the next completely transformed. His unpredictability became his trademark, both on-screen and off. And yet, through every scandal and reinvention, Shia remained undeniably Rhea. Amanda Bynes. In the late 90s and early 2000s, Amanda Bynes was one of the brightest stars in young Hollywood. With razor-sharp comedic timing and a magnetic on-screen presence, she became a standout on The Amanda Show, effortlessly shifting between characters and winning over a generation of kids. By her early teens, she was already a Nickelodeon icon. As she transitioned into mainstream film, hits like Big Fat Liar, What a Girl Wants, and She's the Man made her a box office favorite and a rare teen actress who could truly carry a film. But just as her star seemed to shine its brightest, Amanda made a startling move. She walked away. In 2010, at the height of her fame, Bynes announced her retirement from acting. What followed was a public unraveling. Headlines chronicled a string of arrests, troubling behavior, and deeply personal battles with addiction and mental health. Her appearance changed drastically, and the world watched, often too closely, as the bubbly girl next door transformed into a symbol of Hollywood's darker side. In recent years, however, Amanda has quietly stepped out of the chaos. Choosing privacy over performance, she's focused on healing, attending treatment, studying fashion, and rebuilding her life far from the cameras. Though the path has been rocky, her story now reflects something deeper: resilience, reflection, and the courage to start over. Macaulay Culkin. He will forever be remembered as Kevin McAllister, the clever, mischievous kid who defended his home in Home Alone. In the early 90s, he was more than just a child actor. He was an unparalleled cultural phenomenon. With box office hits like My Girl, Richie Rich, and The Pagemaster, paired with his close friendship with Michael Jackson, Culkin quickly became one of the most recognizable faces of the decade. His boyish charm and camera-ready smile made it seem like a seamless transition into adult stardom was inevitable. But the fairy tale ended too soon. Behind the scenes, the relentless pressures of fame, a famously strained relationship with his parents, and constant media scrutiny left deep, lasting scars. As he got older, the intense glare of the spotlight dimmed, and so did his health. Drug use followed, drastically altering his once youthful appearance. The gaunt face and disheveled look profoundly shocked fans who had grown up loving the bright-eyed Kevin. For nearly a decade, Culkin stepped away from Hollywood, choosing a reclusive life over the chaos of celebrity. But in recent years, he's slowly returned, this time decisively on his own terms. Sporting a full beard and a more grounded demeanor, Macaulay has dabbled in indie films, launched a satirical lifestyle brand, and embraced music and writing. Crucially, he's also become a father, finding a new kind of joy far removed from the noise of his past. As of 2025, Culkin seems to be charting his own path, less about reclaiming fame and more about redefining peace. While it's not the ending fans expected, perhaps it's the one he always needed. Britney Spears. Bursting onto the late 90s scene, she instantly became a global sensation, setting new teen pop standards with hits like Baby One More Time and Oops, I Did It Again. Her fresh face, dazzling smile, and magnetic stage presence made her an iconic poster girl for an entire generation. Yet, beneath the glitter and unparalleled chart success, an immense unseen pressure began to build. By the mid-2000s, cracks in Britney's carefully polished image began to show. A bitter divorce, intense custody battles, and profound mental health struggles turned her into constant tabloid fodder. The world watched in shock when she famously shaved her head, a haunting symbol of a young woman pushed to the edge, marking the beginning of a very public unraveling. In the years that followed, Britney's physical appearance visibly reflected the deep emotional toll she'd endured. Her once radiant skin lost its youthful luminosity, while immense stress etched itself into her expression. Her formerly iconic golden flowing hair often appeared worn and unkempt. The vibrant pop princess the world once knew seemed tragically trapped beneath layers of trauma, exhaustion, and relentless public scrutiny. Jeremy Miller. Jeremy Miller will always be remembered as the lovable Ben Seaver, the youngest son on the classic sitcom Growing Pains. With his wide grin and playful energy, he charmed viewers throughout the show's run in the late 80s and early 90s. But while he made a lasting impression as a child star, the path ahead wasn't as smooth as it was for some of his castmates, such as Kirk Cameron, who became a teen sensation, or Leonardo DiCaprio, who rocketed to international fame. Jeremy, by contrast, quietly slipped from the spotlight. As he grew older, the boyish appeal that once won over audiences faded, and his career struggled to keep pace. Though he never achieved the same level of fame as his co-stars, Jeremy didn't abandon the industry altogether. He continued working, appearing in small roles and independent projects, always maintaining a connection to his roots in television. Behind the scenes, Jeremy also faced personal battles. He's been open about his struggle with alcohol and the toll it took on his life. But in recent years, he's made significant strides, focusing on sobriety, wellness, and building a stable family life. While the fame of Growing Pains is now decades behind him, Jeremy Miller remains a nostalgic favorite, proof that even when the spotlight dims, the heart behind the performance can still shine. Mary-Kate and Ashley Olsen. Mary-Kate and Ashley Olsen were once America's favorite twins, charming audiences as the adorable Michelle Tanner on Full House. From toddler stars to teen idols, they dominated the entertainment world throughout the 90s and early 2000s, becoming a global brand before they even hit adulthood. But as they matured, the Olsens made a bold and deliberate shift, trading the flashing lights of Hollywood for the quiet sophistication of the fashion industry. Now in their late 30s, Mary-Kate and Ashley have built a formidable fashion empire through labels like The Row and Elizabeth and James, earning critical acclaim and amassing millions. They've redefined themselves not as former child stars, but as powerful creative forces behind one of the most respected luxury brands in the world. Their evolution has been as strategic as it is impressive. However, the journey hasn't been without turbulence. Growing up under constant public scrutiny took a toll, and rumors of eating disorders, substance use, and emotional struggles have followed them for years. Their reclusive nature and minimalist aesthetic only fueled speculation. Over time, their appearance changed significantly, becoming mature, solemn, and often described as ghostly or unrecognizable compared to their youthful TV image. Yet, rather than defend or explain, the Olsens chose silence. They've let their work speak for itself, avoiding interviews and rarely attending public events. In doing so, they've reclaimed control of their narrative. Far from faded stars, Mary-Kate and Ashley have transformed into icons of independence, privacy, and creative vision, proving that sometimes stepping out of the spotlight is the most powerful move of all. Shawn Aston. Shawn Aston became a household name in the 1980s thanks to his role as Mikey Walsh in the beloved adventure classic The Goonies. With his wide eyes, boundless energy, and boy-next-door charm, Shawn was plastered across teen magazines like Tiger Beat and Teen Beat, adored by millions who taped his posters to their bedroom walls. As Mikey, he wasn't just the leader of the Goonies, he became the face of youthful bravery for an entire generation. As time passed, Shawn's boyish looks gave way to a more rugged, heavier appearance, surprising fans who hadn't seen him since his early days. But unlike many child stars whose careers fizzled out, Shawn Aston proved he was built for longevity. Rather than fading into nostalgia, he matured into a reliable character actor, showing his range in comedies like 50 First Dates and Click alongside Adam Sandler, as well as in darker fare like The Strain. Of course, his most iconic adult role came as the loyal and brave Samwise Gamgee in the Lord of the Rings trilogy, a performance so deeply human and moving that it earned him a whole new legion of fans and widespread critical praise. As of 2025, Shawn continues to take on thoughtful, often under-the-radar roles that highlight his range and heart. Off-screen, he's also known for his positivity, humility, and love for storytelling, proving that while the boy from the Goonies may have grown up, the spirit that made him special never faded. Josh Saviano. Josh Saviano left a lasting impression on TV audiences in the late 80s and early 90s as Paul Pfeiffer, the brainy and loyal best friend of Kevin Arnold on The Wonder Years. His awkward charm and thoughtful demeanor made him a standout in one of television's most iconic coming-of-age series. But unlike many child stars, Josh didn't stick around Hollywood for long after the show ended. Instead, he chose a drastically different path, one that led him far from the spotlight. Saviano shifted his focus to academics, attending Yale and later earning a law degree, eventually becoming a respected attorney. It was a bold move, but one that highlighted his desire for a more grounded and private life. Despite stepping out of the entertainment industry, Josh remained a topic of pop culture conversation for years, thanks to a wild internet rumor claiming he had secretly transformed into shock rocker Marilyn Manson. Though completely false, the bizarre myth added a layer of intrigue to his low-profile life. Today, Josh Saviano looks nothing like the bespectacled teen fans remember. He's matured into a confident professional, having traded the soundstage for the courtroom. Danny Bonaduce. Danny Bonaduce lit up television screens in the 1970s as the wisecracking, red-headed Danny Partridge on The Partridge Family. With his sharp wit and magnetic charm, he quickly became a fan favorite, seen as a child star destined for lifelong success. But once the cameras stopped rolling, Danny's life veered into darker territory. After the show ended, Danny battled demons that fame couldn't shield him from: addiction, anger issues, and mental health struggles. Despite once being a household name, he found himself homeless, a shocking fall from grace he's spoken about with painful honesty. Years of substance abuse and personal chaos left visible marks on his appearance and reputation, transforming the once bright teen idol into a cautionary tale. His acting roles dried up, and he became better known for erratic reality TV appearances than scripted performances. Still, Danny refused to be defined by his lowest moments. In recent years, he's made a remarkable pivot, carving out a second act as a radio personality. By 2025, he is reportedly sober and committed to a healthier life, embracing a routine that offers him peace and stability. Though his journey has been turbulent, fans of the Partridge Family continue to root for him, inspired by his hard-won resilience and refusal to give up. 3. Haley Joel Osment. In the late 90s and early 2000s, Haley Joel Osment was more than just a child actor. He was a phenomenon. After a small but touching role in Forrest Gump, he skyrocketed to fame with The Sixth Sense, delivering the chilling line, "I see dead people," that instantly became a pop culture landmark. His emotional depth and mature presence on screen stunned audiences and critics alike, leading to powerful follow-up performances in AI, Artificial Intelligence, and Pay It Forward. Osment was hailed as one of the most gifted young talents of his generation. But like many child stars, the path into adulthood wasn't easy. As he aged, the spotlight faded, and his once boyish face gave way to a rugged, more grounded appearance, marked by noticeable weight gain, a thick beard, and a quieter demeanor. Behind the scenes, Haley wrestled with personal demons, including struggles with alcohol and addiction that affected both his image and his opportunities. Yet he never truly left the industry. In recent years, he's been quietly rebuilding his career, embracing character roles and lending his voice to animation and comedy. No longer the wide-eyed child of Thriller's past, Osment has matured into a seasoned actor who continues to win respect for his perseverance and evolving craft. Raven-Symoné. Raven-Symoné's rise in Hollywood began before most kids even knew their ABCs. At just 3 years old, she was stealing scenes on The Cosby Show with her quick wit and undeniable charm. By the time That's So Raven hit Disney Channel in the early 2000s, she was already a seasoned star, captivating young audiences with her physical comedy, electric presence, and one-of-a-kind voice. She wasn't just funny, she was fearless. But time changes everything, including how the world sees you. As Raven matured, so did her style and her critics. She ditched the polished Disney image and leaned into bolder looks, dramatic hair transformations, and unapologetic self-expression. Her fluctuating weight became a target for tabloid headlines, and every fashion move sparked public debate. But through it all, Raven never backed down. She refused to shrink herself to fit Hollywood's mold. Now, as a host and cultural commentator, Raven is no stranger to controversy. She speaks her mind loudly, passionately, and without apology. And while that's earned her both praise and pushback, it's also earned her respect. She's not here to please everyone, she's here to be real. Out of all the child stars we've covered so far, who do you think is the most famous? Drop their name in the comments and see if others agree. Cory Feldman. In the 1980s, Cory Feldman was everywhere. With unforgettable roles in Stand By Me, The Goonies, and The Lost Boys, he became one of the defining faces of the decade. Charismatic, rebellious, and talented beyond his years, Feldman wasn't just a star, he was a phenomenon. Alongside his best friend Corey Haim, the duo became iconic as the two Corys, dominating teen magazines and capturing hearts around the world. But the Cory Feldman we see today is far removed from the bright-eyed boy who lit up the screen. After stepping away from Hollywood's spotlight, Feldman's life took a darker turn. Addiction, trauma, and a long battle with the industry's hidden horrors left visible marks both emotionally and physically. His youthful energy faded, replaced by a more weathered, introspective presence. The changes in his appearance reflect not vanity, but survival. Yet, perhaps more powerful than his fame is what he chose to do with his pain. In recent years, Feldman has become an outspoken advocate, unafraid to confront the entertainment industry's darkest corners. He's used his voice to expose abuse, challenge silence, and push for accountability, earning a different kind of respect. Cory Feldman may no longer be the heartthrob of the 80s, but his transformation reveals something deeper. A survivor who turned scars into a mission. Taylor Momsen. Before Taylor Momsen turned heads on Gossip Girl, she was already a familiar face to millions. At just 7 years old, she stepped into cinematic history as Cindy Lou Who in How the Grinch Stole Christmas. With her angelic voice and unforgettable look, Taylor lit up the screen, becoming an instant holiday icon. But that innocent charm was only the surface of a far more complex journey. By the time she joined Gossip Girl in 2007, the shift was already underway. Her character, Jenny Humphrey, grew darker with each season, and so did Taylor. The line between role and reality blurred as she leaned into a fierce, rebellious identity that clashed with Hollywood's expectations. Behind the scenes, rumors swirled of tension and growing distance from the spotlight she once embraced. By 2012, she was gone, not just from the show, but from acting altogether. What came next wasn't a quiet exit, it was a profound reinvention. She re-emerged as the unapologetic frontwoman of The Pretty Reckless, trading scripts for screaming guitars. Her voice now thundered across rock stages, raw and unapologetic. The transformation was staggering. The wide-eyed girl in Whoville was now unrecognizable, pierced, defiant, and fully in control of her narrative. Today, Taylor Momsen isn't looking back. She's built a career on her own terms, unfiltered and fearless. Edward Furlong. He was the face of a new Hollywood generation, etching his name into cinematic history as John Connor in Terminator 2: Judgment Day. With his sharp features, rebellious charisma, and undeniable screen presence, Furlong rapidly became an instant icon of the early 90s. Critics hailed him as a natural talent, and films like American History X and Detroit Rock City proved his abilities weren't just beginner's luck, leading Hollywood to expect greatness. But the spotlight that once illuminated his rise soon transformed into a burning weight. As Furlong transitioned into adulthood, the insidious grip of addiction, the pressures of fame, and personal instability crept in. Arrests, multiple rehab stints, and erratic behavior tragically stole headlines from his acting career. Fans were stunned by his dramatic transformation. His boyish looks faded, replaced by a visibly aged face and fluctuating health. The hopeful promise of his youth was buried beneath years of profound pain and personal turmoil. Yet, Edward hasn't disappeared. Now, in 2025, he's taken quiet but steady steps toward healing. He's embraced smaller film roles, independent projects, and fan conventions, reconnecting with the audiences who still remember him as the defiant savior of humanity. Wait, where in the world are you watching from? Drop your country in the comments before we continue. Johnny Depp. Johnny Depp has captivated Hollywood for over 4 decades, evolving from a rebellious teen idol in 21 Jump Street and crybaby into one of cinema's most fascinating leading men. But it was his fearless transformation into eccentric characters, like Captain Jack Sparrow in Pirates of the Caribbean, that carved his legacy in stone. Depp brought haunting elegance to films like Sleepy Hollow and soulful depth to Chocolate. With 10 Golden Globe nominations, a win for Sweeney Todd, and 3 Oscar nods, Depp didn't just chase stardom, he redefined it. Behind the spotlight, Johnny Depp's life has been marked by turbulence and deeply personal struggles. Like many stars who rose fast and bright, he began smoking at an early age and later faced ongoing battles with alcohol and substance abuse. Battles that left visible marks on both his appearance and public image. In recent years, Depp found himself in the center of a media firestorm during his explosive divorce from actress Amber Heard, a legal and emotional roller coaster that played out in front of the world. Alongside the courtroom drama came years of whispered concerns about his health, fueled by reports of erratic behavior, weight fluctuations, and a noticeably worn-down look, including yellowing teeth and thinning hair. Once admired for aging like a vintage star, Depp now appears more weathered by life's storms. Still, despite the toll, his extraordinary talent continues to shine through. He remains one of Hollywood's most complex and magnetic figures with a legacy that, while stained by controversy, is undeniably built on remarkable performances and fearless artistry. Angus T Jones. Angus T Jones shot to fame as the hilarious and lovable Jake Harper on 2.5 Men, capturing hearts with his mischievous charm and effortless comedic timing. A native of Texas, he quickly became one of the most recognized faces on TV, earning multiple accolades including 2 Young Artist Awards. But fame came at a cost. During the show's 10th season, Angus made headlines with a bold and unexpected move, publicly denouncing the show's content as morally questionable. His candid remarks stirred controversy and led to his departure from the series, though he returned briefly for the finale. Since leaving the limelight, Angus has undergone a striking transformation. Gone is the baby-faced sitcom star, he now sports long hair, a thick beard, and a reflective, almost monk-like presence. Having stepped away from Hollywood, he has embraced a quieter, more private lifestyle, choosing personal growth and spiritual exploration over the spotlight. Brendan Fraser. Brendan Fraser was once the golden boy of late 90s and early 2000s Hollywood. With his boyish charm, quick wit, and rugged good looks, he became a household name thanks to blockbuster hits like the Mummy trilogy, where he played the fearless Rick O'Connell. He seamlessly moved between genres, from goofy roles in Encino Man and George of the Jungle, to heartthrob status in Bedazzled, to family-friendly adventure in Journey to the Center of the Earth. Fraser was everywhere, and audiences couldn't get enough. Then, almost suddenly, he vanished from the spotlight. For years, fans were left puzzled by his absence. But the truth was far more heartbreaking. Fraser later opened up about the personal and physical battles that pushed him out of the limelight, including a painful divorce, a long struggle with depression, lingering injuries from doing his own stunts, and a harrowing sexual assault that left deep emotional scars. The toll was both visible and invisible. His appearance changed, and so did his place in the Hollywood machine. But Brendan Fraser's story didn't end there. In 2022, he made a powerful comeback with The Whale, delivering a raw, transformative performance that earned him an Academy Award for Best Actor. As of 2025, Fraser is once again a name on everyone's lips, not because of his past, but because of his triumphant return. Do you think Brendan Fraser's comeback proves that true talent never fades? Yes or no, drop your answer in the comments. and let us know what moment made you root for him the most. Lark Voorhies. Lark Voorhies was once the bright, stylish face of Saved by the Bell, capturing hearts as the fashion-forward Lisa Turtle. In a cast full of standout characters, she brought a unique mix of charm and attitude that made her unforgettable, becoming a 90s teen icon, admired, imitated, and adored. But today, many fans barely recognize her. Over the years, Lark's dramatic transformation has sparked headlines and speculation. Her once familiar features appear drastically altered, a shift some attribute to multiple cosmetic procedures. Others point to deeper struggles. In a rare and vulnerable admission, Lark later revealed she had been diagnosed with schizophrenia, an invisible battle that may explain her long absence from the spotlight and the rumors that swirled around her personal life. While she stepped away from mainstream acting in her early 20s, Lark didn't vanish entirely. She founded her own production company, signaling a desire to stay connected to storytelling, even from behind the scenes. Yet, fame hasn't been kind in return. Despite the hardships, mental illness, addiction rumors, and the loss of her once rising career, fans still remember the girl who brought style and spirit to Saturday mornings. Lisa Turtle remains a nostalgic symbol of the 90s, and Lark Voorhies, though changed, is still part of that legacy. Frankie Muniz. Frankie Muniz was once the face of early 2000s television, lighting up screens as the sharp-witted, overthinking teen in Malcolm in the Middle. With piercing blue eyes and pitch-perfect comedic timing, he became one of the most beloved child actors of his generation. His performance earned him Emmy recognition and pop culture immortality. However, the role that launched his fame also ended up boxing him in. As Malcolm became iconic, it became harder for Muniz to be seen as anyone else. Struggling to escape the shadow of his character, he quietly stepped away from acting and began a journey of reinvention. Music, race cars, and even olive oil, Frankie dove into it all, each chapter a new identity, far from the sitcom sets he once called home. But behind the scenes, life brought harder challenges. A series of head injuries and a mini stroke left him with troubling memory loss. Shockingly, Frankie has admitted he barely remembers filming the show that defined his childhood. His changing appearance and ever-shifting hairstyles have sparked curiosity, but what's most striking is his unshakable positivity. Today, Muniz embraces a life built on change and passion. He may not recall his own rise to fame, but he's fully aware of the man he's become. Resilient, adventurous, and determined to keep evolving beyond the screen. So now you know, beneath Hollywood's glittering golden glow lay a hidden world of pervasive secrets, shocking scandals, and powerful stars who brazenly lived by their own distorted rules. Fame didn't simply elevate these legends. It often served as an impenetrable shield, fiercely protecting their darkest sides. Which story shocked you the most? Drop your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe to Iconic Inside for more untold stories, hidden truths, and jaw-dropping moments from the world of fame.